Welcome to Isn't It Obvious, where things are obvious. That's going to be the intro.
Welcome to Isn't It Obvious? All right, welcome to Isn't It Obvious, that show you're listening to. My topic today, in this post-COVID world, isn't it obvious that
Wait, post?
Okay, current, whatever. Who knows what it'll be by the time
We're
this
not past
airs.
it. We're still dealing with it.
Okay, well, not in this, then. How about in the post-COVID world? Or in the aftermath?
In the hopeful post-COVID world, if it still exists.
If it exists. Isn't it obvious that tennis and or badminton will be the safest and only available athletic activity?
Bowling.
No, bowling's disgusting. You can't do that. There's too many opportunities of people touching your balls. It's not totally no contact. Tennis and badminton.
I mean, no, bowling is pretty no contact.
No.
On account that it's one bowler and a lane to knock down 10 pins.
Yeah, but you have to physically hold this ball that is going
We're taking this under the assumption that you own your own equipment.
Doesn't matter. It's still going down a commonly used lane. It's coming back up into a common used carousel, whatever.
And what about handling the tennis ball with the shuttlecock?
And hold on. And the people who are playing with you also touching your fucking balls. So in tennis and
You enjoy that phrase way too much.
I do. Fun. Sports, man. You gotta have ball jokes. Anyway, you're right. There is the, serving aspect of tennis and badminton. But you could probably just wear a glove. But otherwise, you're not touching the ball. You're just volleying it back and forth. You're farther than 6 feet away from this person.
What about curling?
Nope, you still...
Yeah, but it's not safer because in tennis you don't have to wear a mask.
Mates, right?
You can wear masks.
But, yeah, you wouldn't. You're still...
But you're not within 6 feet of another person.
In curling?
No, in tennis.
Yeah, in tennis, you're not. So you wouldn't have to wear a mask.
I mean, theoretically, you could have a really, really hard-nosed net volley back and forth, and that could potentially be within 6 feet.
Only in Super Mario's tennis. Yep, that's the only time I've ever seen that happen.
That part of that game.
I love that game.
Just,
it's so good.
You camp the net and just hope for a spike.
Yep. But no, I feel like this
Luge,
is going to be the new...
What about the skeleton?
The what?
The skeleton.
What's the skeleton?
The single loser.
If you have to ask if it's a sport, it's not a
Where
sport.
you go down face first.
Is that a sport?
It's in the Winter Olympics.
Okay, if our Luge listeners would just kindly forgive my...
It is a sport. It's an Olympic event. I think that constitutes it being a sport.
Yeah.
It's more
what about swimming?
It's more of an event, not a sport. I don't feel like it's... There's definitely competition to
rally races is an event, not a sport. It is a timed event where everyone is doing the same thing. By you saying that, you're saying NASCAR is a sport,
right?
I am saying
don't you dare say NASCAR is a sport.
I don't think races
also, what about NASCAR?
Sports.
No,
I don't think... but I don't think...
They can wear masks.
And gloves and suits.
And often they do anyway, since they have helmets, because they're dealing with, jet engines that are put into a car to make left turns gradually for 4 hours.
It's not a sport. It's a race. So I don't think races are sports. Like, it's definitely an athletic activity, and there is some competition to it, but you don't win points. Like, there's no points to be won.
Yeah, you do.
You can win medals.
No, you win. No, because one race doesn't determine the season. You have many races.
Also,
and how you finish in those races gives you points to determine who is the best. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, but that's multiple races.
Don't you dare, Phil.
It's not a...
Yeah, but baseball's not a sport.
Multiple games. A baseball season is not one game.
Yeah.
You have 162 of them.
But baseball's a sport because you can win a game.
Football is not one
you
game.
Can't
you
win
have 16 of them.
Yeah.
But
you can win a race, but even if you're...
First of all, that is not true.
I don't know. It's just different. It's different.
What you really win after a race is the friends you made along the way.
Also true. I fucking love them. I love sports movies. Have I said that before? They just give me this warm feeling inside. Okay, anyway. Just love teams.
There's a lot of people on the field.
Just overcoming the odds.
Yeah, but there's also the locker room and everything. Yeah, I don't think it's that safe.
I don't know enough.
There's a lot of distancing in cricket.
Now, I feel like tennis and badminton are the post-COVID or aftermath of COVID sports that are going to be like, there's going to be a resurgence, is all I'm really saying here.
It's funny
People
that
are
you
gonna be
mention that
playing
because,
tennis,
like,
'cause that's gonna be
when
the
I
only
go
athletic
a walk around the
activity
park,
that's gonna be
the
actually
tennis courts
safe
are
to
always
do.
filled up with people because there's enough space for them to be able to play without.
Yeah, you can play that game with
The others-
another person, and
No,
you don't have to touch them. Safe,
right.
ish.
Can't
do that with
football,
basketball.
obviously not, and
not soccer either. No, baseball you can't really because you're, the basemans are right next to.
I don't know if you have football where you just seal off the helmet and you have a built-in respirator, and they have their own little oxygen funnel.
It's like a little scuba tank.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I don't think that's good.
But think about it. Then we can have football in space.
No, you have to have
idea.
lasers shoot out the
Let's
space.
not bring
Like, make it
Because it's
really
bad.
1980s.
It's a bad idea.
We could bring soccer into space.
What about Blitzball? Is
Oh,
Blitzball
God.
sports that can be post-COVID?
That's basically soccer in space.
No, it's soccer in a sphere of water
Yeah.
that is somehow held up.
That's what I said. Soccer in space. It's 3-dimensional soccer in space. But no, I don't think it's safe. There's still contact. Unless you're like super
Locker room.
disinfected. I don't know. But
How are you going to transfer COVID in a water sphere?
I don't know, man. Mucus, man. It's mucous membranes. And actually, there's a lot of cases of COVID that are spread through the baptismal water of some church that they refused to clean, that everyone just drank from, and then everyone suddenly got COVID because they refused to drink it. They're just like, oh, if
branch
we
of
bless
Christianity
it.
drinks the baptismal water?
I don't actually know if it was Christian or not, but it doesn't matter.
What is wrong with West Virginia? I'm just guessing it's in West Virginia.
I don't actually remember where it was.
To our listeners in West Virginia,
I just hear things and then I forget where my sources are from, and no one can prove me wrong.
like a Fox journalist.
Golf might be close, but
Well, it's a good thing I'm not being held accountable for anything.
but the caddy, yeah, there you go, yeah.
Golf, maybe.
But the caddy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is
God,
very
you
true.
can't have professional golfers carry their own clubs.
That would be.
What are they, plebes?
Yeah, that would be impossible.
Yes.
Gosh.
Squash. No.
Yeah, so like I'm thinking
Yeah.
racket sports, but really only tennis or badminton, because like racquetball, you're on the same side in like a small
Singles.
room, so that's maybe.
But then you can
pickleball.
never have doubles tennis again. Or doubles badminton.
Exactly, it would have
because
to be,
that can be
it
too
would
close.
have to be
So
singles.
it's only
It would have to
singles?
be singles.
I don't
tennis.
want to live in that world, Sarah.
I do.
No.
Fuck.
What about esports? Are those sports?
No. Where's your exercise? God.
Your brain, the dexterity of your fingers,
What about no
the
hockey?
strength of your forearms to hold up that controller
Yeah,
for hours upon end.
I'm
What
struggling
about,
to think of any other sport that's
like
really
cycling or,
going to
you know,
be
something
like
like that?
safe post pandemic.
Okay.
Like in our.
Like it's like an event.
That's not a sport. That's just another race.
What you think is or isn't a sport
It could be
is
a shuttlecock.
very interesting. Does it have to have a ball in it for it to be a sport?
No, it could be feathered.
No, a shuttlecock.
Yeah,
Call it what it is, Sarah.
I do laugh and giggle.
cock.
Yeah,
Look at you guys laughing.
It's a cock that shuttles.
Oh, we're so mature. Oh God, I love it.
Hey, it's what keeps the fans coming back.
No, karate's too hand to hand. It's not really a sport either. Is it? Martial arts? Is that? No. Boxing? No.
Anything that's a competition can be a sport.
I don't know. Whatever.
Racing can be a sport.
I suppose.
You drive 200 miles an hour for 4 hours and not kill yourself out of
I
boredom.
think that
that makes it a sport.
Here's how a fun way to how a friend of mine thought it was a funny way to distinguish sports from other activities that are athletic. She said if you can add play before the name, like if you can play soccer, it's a sport. But you can't play track. You don't play racing. You don't play horse racing. You don't play NASCAR. You play soccer, you play basketball, you play tennis. So that's how she distinguished it.
But you play video games. So esports are a sport.
Ooh, for your thumbs.
It doesn't matter. You play Fortnite.
It has to have both.
Thus, by
The
your
play
definition,
function and
Fortnite is a
athletic.
sport.
But it's not an athletic activity. So it has to have both. It has to be an athletic activity that you can add play as a verb or whatever before the activity. So yes, you can play games. You can play chess. I wouldn't call that a fucking sport, but it is a
You won't call a
competition.
game that has 37 million moves
It is a
sport?
competition, but it's not a sport. You don't play the Olympics. but you participate in the Olympics. You can participate in a chess tournament, but it's not the luge. You know, like you don't play ski. You ski race.
Not the fact that it is a thing, even though it is a time trial competition, that makes it a sport. Because you don't play the luge, you just luge.
But it's not a sport.
You don't play. Yeah, it is.
You play badminton.
It's a time trial that requires physical activity.
Yeah, it is a physical activity, but it's not a sport.
It is a sport because it's a competition against other people in the same.
A sport is a competition, but a competition isn't necessarily a sport. We have a Venn diagram here that I need to make with sport, competition, race.
It's a triple Venn diagram because the attributes you are giving to a sport is also based on your explanation of it.
True.
Anything that's a competition can be a sport.
It's what I decide.
Fantasy football can be a sport.
No, it's not a sport.
It's not physical, but it is a competition.
It's a gambling competition. It's not a sport. It's based around a sport.
So, but poker can be a sport.
No, it's not a sport.
Absolutely.
It's a gambling competition.
You endure 4 days of World Series of Poker.
It's barely athletic.
Where it's 10 hours of poker in a day.
That's a sport.
Endurance.
You're only sweating because you're
also Wall Street Bets is a sport too.
That's the only reason you're sweating.
No, I'm sweating because I'm fat and those lights are bright. Kind of. Like, the rules around it are really loose, but only certain people gain from it. Only certain people can participate in it. And it's a competition amongst those people.
Yeah, competition doesn't necessarily equal sport. Just saying.
But you can't have a sport that doesn't have competition.
Correct.
So, competition is an aspect of sport.
Yes.
So, anything that can sustain a competition has the potential of being a sport.
Logical fallacy.
What?
I have no idea, but it's not wrong. It's not right.
How is it not
right?
What's
some
a sport
A's are
that
B's,
doesn't have competition?
Some B's are C's, but not all A's are C's.
No, it's a logic puzzle. What my logic was there. What sport doesn't have competition?
Okay, well, I'll see you guys next week.
That's not a sport.
Thank you.
Get out of here. There is all sports have an aspect of competition. That's
right.
True. But not all competitions are sports.
Correct, but if there is competition, it has the potentiality of being a sport.
Yes.
Whether you accept it as a sport or not is what varies the Venn diagram from person to person. I don't think NASCAR is a sport. I think Formula 1 is a sport. Those are two very different things. But they're also two incredibly similar things because it is still auto racing. But gradually turning to the left for 4 hours is different than actually having a track where you have to control the vehicle you are driving through multiple turns right and left and dealing with different velocities going into those angles. That takes more brain power and control over a vehicle that can go extremely fast very quickly.
You're really passionate about this car driving thing.
I am. Gran Turismo appealed to me as a kid.
Honestly, I think that
cars are really boring to me, and I'm going to fall asleep if we keep talking about that.
Oh, and God, and the Grand Prix where they have like 4 different races happening at the same time are fucking interesting as hell.
Now, if you want to talk about horse races, that's a whole other game plan here, because in horse races, man, have you ever seen Seabiscuit? Oh, I cried.
No, but I've been in Canterbury, and it's still really boring.
That sounds fun.
It's not that bad.
Even though I won like $80 on some weird bet that happened to work out. It was very funny.
Lucky.
I put $5 down on someone that was like an 8-1 to win, and the odds dropped to like 15-1, and he won.
Lucky you.
And I'm like, I'm not betting again.
Okay, wait. I have some more questions for Sera.
Might as well take
Is boxing a sport?
But yeah, no.
Because you don't play boxing, right? You just box.
No. Or do you play boxing? No.
Playing boxing is playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. That's playing boxing.
Wait,
I don't know if I'd consider it a sport. I think
oh my God, what? It absolutely is a sport.
Hear me out. I think of it as more of like almost a martial art. Like it's certainly a competition, but it's a competition that
requires physical activity and has a victor.
There's no ball though.
I think that triggers all 3 of your Venn diagrams. You're mushing together to exclude as many things as you can.
There's no ball or.
There's no ball.
That was never an actual stipulation. Because badminton doesn't have a ball.
I don't know how I kind of think boxing is sort of
this now is more about.
I don't know if I'd consider it a sport. It's certainly a competition.
How is it not a sport?
So we're trying to.
No. I want.
It's not a game though. It's just fighting. There's skill
it has
involved,
specific rules. It's not like MMA It's
I know,
not you
but
have
it's still-
don't kick in the nuts and that's
What we're
it.
trying to do here, Micah,
I know
is
there's
we're no
rules.
longer
I
trying to
watched
debate
How You
what
Made It
is
Was
sport or
was
what is
great.
not a sport. We're just trying to
but-
figure out Sarah's shape of what a sport is, and then just kind of like look
I'm not
at that
playing
and
win,
be
I'm
like,
playing not
what
to
is
lose.
this? Because everyone has their own personal definition of things, right? Like with the connotations involved. But we're not going to bust out the dictionary, but I am curious because, like, I agreed with
But there's
Sarah
only
up until
one
boxing,
true- No,
right?
Is
And then I was like,
Quidditch a
wait a
sport?
minute. So, okay, is sumo wrestling a sport?
Yeah, you don't really play box.
You box.
You just box.
Okay.
Yep.
I would say it falls under the same category as
alright.
boxing.
Is golf
And
a
same
sport?
with judo or any martial arts competition. It's its own sort of side quest.
A side quest. People dedicate their lives to be the best boxer they can be, the best sumo wrestler. No,
course.
it's just a side quest.
Is,
Go back to being
is,
a municipal dictator.
Wow, thanks for... Okay.
Oh, wait, no.
I also meant to say director, but I'm like,
I have a better question now.
Municipal
Is-
dictator.
Wait, what were you saying earlier, Phil?
Competitive eating. a
Before
sport?
Micah rudely interrupted.
That's what I do.
Like, I'm going to eat the most sushi rolls. Like, would you consider that to be...
Oh, God.
You don't play
I
eating?
guess it is technically a physical activity. And
So
it's
in your
a
head,
competition, but I don't
in
think
your
you
feeling
play
of it, it's like,
eat.
hey, you don't...
play eat.
Anorexics
You
play
just
eat.
stop your
Okay.
face. I see it as a competition, not a sport. Certainly requires
Is
skill
volleyball a sport?
and probably training.
You play-
Yes, you play volleyball.
Is cheerleading a sport?
Ooh, no, I don't think so. Not in my little small world definition. I think it's definitely competitive, and it's a physical activity, and it requires skill, and it certainly requires a lot of athletic skill, but I don't see it as a sport.
Is gymnastics a sport?
No. I would say
And
that falls...
Taking in
Huh?
the 5 aspects of gymnastics.
I would say that falls under the same category as cheerleading.
Ooh, good one.
You
Good
can
one.
have it be a competition. It requires athletic skill that you have to maybe be trained
Figure
for, or you just build a skill set for, but I don't think it's a sport. You can make it into a competition. but
Skateboarding.
It's not a sport. No.
Skateboarding.
No. Because if you're... No, you're...
I got one.
So a dude playing basketball by himself, hitting jumpers, is more of a sport than a skateboarder
They're just
in
training.
a non-competitive sense.
You're not playing basketball. You're just shooting hoops at that point. You're just practicing.
So a game of horse, then, has more
Ooh.
credibility as a sport than an individual skateboarding and recording themselves.
Yeah.
God, you're going to die on this hill, aren't you?
We'll die on this hill.
But that's more like
As
game,
a sport,
right?
yes.
That's
It's
more like a-
closer to
that's
the
like a mini
definition of
game.
sport in my head than
That's a mini game.
skateboarding. But it is a game. Like I feel that's more
Basketball is a
mini
game.
game. Yeah, I feel like it's a mini game, not just a... Because it's between like... 2 or 3
Basketball
people.
is just a game of you putting a ball through a hoop.
But basketball
What makes
is
that a
several
sport?
people trying to put a
Is-
ball in 2 different hoops based on what team they're on. It's it's different.
So there's a competition
Yeah, but
to
it's
determine
also
who may win in
Another
an
question.
arbitrary
team
rule set.
sport with,
Is
yes.
marching band a sport?
Nope. Nope. You can play your instrument, I guess, but no, I don't. Definitely is an athletic activity. I did participate, but
Because you play in an
I wouldn't-
orchestra.
No, I wouldn't
right?
consider that a sport.
So that's not an.
Yeah,
But-
you march in a
But
marching
it's more
band,
like
you
this
play
is more
in a marching
musical,
band.
not
You do.
in your head. It's not the same category as say.
Yeah. Well, and you're not like there is certainly competitive marching band. You can go to marching band competitions.
Everybody's seen
whatever.
Drumline.
I haven't.
If you
actually
haven't,
seen that,
don't.
But I'm sure it sounds like
It's bad. It's
sounds
bad.
like a movie that I
It's
haven't
not
seen.
good.
Okay,
But
I got another
yeah,
one.
like there's certainly music competitions and
Oh, the performance.
Is Battle of the
Competition
Bands a sport?
same.
But it's a competition.
Maybe that's that music is definitely more performance than competition. There can be competitive
It's-
aspects to it, but it's definitely more performance.
The hybrid.
So American Idol is not a
It's a
competition?
performance.
Okay,
competition.
what about hunting
Mhm.
or fishing?
Ooh.
Ooh, okay.
That's tricky too. Is it really a physical activity? Like it kind of is, but barely. Like, you're physically in a boat, but you're just sitting there.
What has more legitimacy, hunting or fishing, or esports?
As a sport?
Yes.
Ooh. I'm going to offend all of our fishermen.
That's basically every one of our demographics.
Yeah, pretty much.
My mom likes to fish.
What fishermen are listening to our podcast?
I don't fish anymore because it's just not good at it. I'm not that patient, and I don't like.
It's boring and not that much fun. It's like even when like they're biting, it is still like
it's really not. Like the only cool part of it is you're sitting out in a boat and you can just shoot shit with like the person you're fishing with. It's
the
fairly
social aspect. Okay, how about this? Is billiards a sport?
No.
There are balls.
It is a competition.
There are competition.
Actually,
it requires some amount of physical activity.
Oh.
I could see that.
What about darts?
No.
There's no ball. But there's a competition.
But it's not...
And it requires some physical mastery.
Yeah, no, I could see darts being a sport.
So why is curling not a sport? It's basically the same thing except for throwing a stone down ice instead of throwing a dart.
No, I said curling wasn't
Curling wasn't as good as an...
It wasn't curling doesn't fit the post-COVID.
So then billiards and darts will be a post-COVID sport.
You can't. You're too close.
So both billiards and darts can be post-COVID sports.
But I feel like it's not gonna be the same resurgence as billiards. No, wouldn't work. Darts could.
Why wouldn't billiards work?
Potentially.
You can also share the bridge as well.
No, two people are never on the table at the same time.
Actual professional competition.
Is that not what we're talking about?
No,
or even
I'm talking about like activities.
You can have the distance.
I'm saying like there's going to be a resurgence in people who are going to play tennis and badminton because it's going to be one of the only accessible.
Now people are going to play soccer and get COVID and die, and it's going to be kind of.
That's not going to be funny, but
that's kind of funny.
Funny in a sad way, macabre humor.
Yeah, not funny, haha. Funny like
future that we're facing. No, but I'm saying tennis and badminton are going to be the most accessible. Darts might be accessible, but
I disagree because it's also a classist.
Not when you've got nothing else left to do, man.
Yeah,
rackets aren't that expensive, nor are tennis balls.
But it still requires something. What does soccer require?
I will
ball.
say
That's
soccer
it. And that ball is reusable every single time.
But you do need to. A what? Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's
the
fair.
court is also the issue.
You can get a net.
Not every city has a tennis court.
You can just put a net
you need a very specific environment in which to play this.
Sport.
Badminton, less so, but you also want to play that on
badminton rackets, which are cheaper, I think, than tennis rackets, but not by much. And you get you get 4 shuttlecocks and. Yeah, and you're not going to lose your shuttlecock because, you know...
I mean, you can spend $20 and get, 4 of them with a shuttlecock. But then you're still dealing with a shuttlecock. No, it's the fact that the shuttlecock is the thing you have to involve
I was going to say that...
In airports.
I don't have enough room for a badminton set.
You don't even need a net, man. You can just volley back and forth. You can just make it it can just be like a mini game.
But then a mini game is not a sport.
Get out
of
here.
What about table tennis?
Earlier.
You think that's going to have a resurgence? Like, people are going to want to bust out their table tennis?
But table tennis, okay, don't get me wrong. Table tennis is fun, but that huge table...
It has a ball. It has physical activity. It is a sport.
What?
So it has a ball. It has
Wait, are you saying it's not a sport?
It is a sport.
Okay.
Based on your definition.
Thanks, Micah. Yep.
Oh God, my brain almost exploded.
I'm saying it is totally
wait a
minute. Sport.
Okay,
I wasn't arguing.
Your argument against
I wasn't arguing. It's totally
tennis,
a sport.
Mini tennis.
Basically tennis.
That you have the
table
is
just
big.
a big eyesore and it takes up way too much space.
That's true.
No, I think aesthetically it's
so aesthetically you don't like ping pong because of that?
No. Did I say that? I don't know. Whatever.
Aesthetically, it doesn't have anything to do with the
whatever. Aesthetically, comma, ...
Your point was made, but I just thought that combination was great. Aesthetically,
that's better.
That's very funny.
Longer pause in my mind. Okay. But no, it's the table itself is
I'm glad that was
not accessible as a racket or two.
Would you
and a ball.
Get a smaller table and be like,
no.
I could still play this game? Or would you be like, no, it has to be the full table or I'm out?
All right, what about beer pong?
Is that a
beer pong sport?
Do people still
or is it a party game? God, I would not play that. I would not because I can just drink beer and hang out with my friends. Like I don't need to have a fucking game.
But that doesn't get you drunk. And the point of beer pong is to get you
getting
drunk.
Drunk isn't really my
because that's what you do when you're 20.
Send us a ping. Do people still play? I think this is like an old man's game now, right? Like,
no, people.
Yeah.
When I went to college, people played beer pong. I
went
went
to
to
college, like,
houses
20
that
years
had a
ago.
beer
I
pong
mean,
specific
I
table in
don't
their
think
basement. And this wasn't a
so
frat house. This was a
old,
house
Phil.
of like 8 people that
I know, but,
collaboratively
like,
were like, our
2
basement
decades ago they
is
did
meant
this.
for
Like,
beer
I don't
pong.
know if people still play Atari today, right? Like, I just
didn't
don't know
go
if they
to
moved
college 2
on.
decades ago. It's like a decade and a half ago.
Windows XP didn't come out yet. Like, I'm just saying.
What? No, XP was out.
Pretty old.
People were still complaining about ME. That's how long it was when I was in college.
All I know is I did not really do the whole beer pong game things in college, and
It's a garbage game. The fact that people
No,
threw
I-
balls into a cup of alcohol that you had to drink.
that's
Well, I was like, nope,
disgusting.
that's too many hands in what I'm
Yeah,
drinking.
isn't that
I'll just
disgusting
drink.
too? Like that would never fly post
Well,
COVID.
no, the alcohol kills the germs. It's fine. You won't get COVID from beer pong, said a lot of people at like University of Arizona.
Okay, there's not enough alcohol in beer to make that a viable statement.
My reference of the University of Arizona made that
You can't.
not a valid argument.
You can plunk an infected pong ball in a cup of beer. It's still going to have COVID on it. I bet. There's not enough.
Depends on how shitty the beer is.
Huh?
Natty Light, that shit is gone.
Well, if it's.
There's nothing good about Natty Light.
What was the? I forget what the CDC keeps changing their like. You need a hand sanitizer with X amount of alcohol, like a certain percentage of alcohol, and like they changed it from like 90% to like 60% or something like that. And I'm just like, make up your fucking minds, guys.
Or maybe they're just getting new information and are correcting as they go.
I know. That's exactly what they are doing.
Like how science should.
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, it turns out 60% works.
Yeah.
Cool.
Science.
Just kidding.
You have a
can find
claim,
cheap.
and then that claim is tested, and then you have more information,
Wait, are we
and you
talking
correct
about the
that.
same CDC?
Unlike,
No, that's
Or
fair.
are you guys talking about a one that's competent, and I'm just looking at the one that's not? Which one are you guys looking at?
no, the CDC is always competent. It's whether or not the administration is going to validate what the CDC says or not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a sport that would be even more popular than badminton or tennis. That'd still be safe to play.
That'd still be safe
And
to
the only way I
play
can think about it
post-COVID.
is you're gonna play with people that is in your immediate dwelling. So
Yeah. Or potentially as what are schools going to do, right? If they open up, but they still have, they're not going to be playing basketball in gym. So they'll have to come up with activities that don't require kids to be,
But that's assuming that
super close
government
contact?
institutions like the education system care about people's safety. Which, if you can apply that
how
with
bold of you to
how
assume.
Let's assume though that the people who are actually, living in those communities would like to keep their children safe, and that the administration, not the government, the administration of the school will be like, let's talk about how we're going to have our PE classes. Like,
all right.
let's go for walks in the wood, and we'll just have it be that, like everyone's 6 feet apart.
Welcome to gym class.
like-
We have an hour. Everybody go walk in the woods. I'll whistle when you have 10 minutes left.
We'll walk the track or whatever. Or let's go play tennis. We'll play tennis. And we'll just have wipes
Legitimately,
so we
to
can,
the constraints you put
wipe
upon
down the
this,
rackets.
baseball has a fine opportunity to be a good post-COVID sport.
Baseball, yeah. You would just have to do, what did you say?
Yeah, you play the neighborhood rules, where like physical contact is not needed.
Neighborhood rules.
But if you have
you don't
it,
have to.
if
you
you
don't have
have
to
it
tag
where
them.
anytime that a player could be within that range of another player, that they have a mask on. So everybody has the like neckerchief going on, that if I'm playing second base and somebody hits a double that is just a double, so they go from first to second. At that point, I put the neckerchief on, and they have a neckerchief on, and you go from there. There's very little physical contact in baseball.
That's true. There's still potential
For some, but if you have it where everybody has that option of having...
And in school sports, you're not going to be sliding into bases.
Or you are, but you're also not dealing with like the fan base that Major League Baseball would deal with. So you're not worried about the people watching it.
Actually, I don't think you're allowed... Well, we weren't allowed to slide when we played like baseball or kickball.
Ooh, kickball. Oh, kickball. Kickball can make a resurgence. What about kickball? Is kickball a sport?
No, because you have to catch the
it's kicked
ball,
off of a foot.
and then multiple people are catching. Yeah, no, you when someone kicks the ball and you catch it,
Gloves.
they're out.
Gloves.
So anyone who's touched that ball, yeah, but it's literally in your chest. You're not just catching with your arms.
The physical activity of kickball is not that demanding upon people playing defense.
And that's another thing is fucking masks, man. I don't know, because there'll have to be some, like, scientific studies done, but, like, I don't know how a mask is going to affect the respiratory system of someone who is undergoing heavy athletic activity. What kind of effect is going to be, heavy breathing through a paper or fabric mask? Like, are you going to be breathing in and out that moist air that's, collecting in your mask? Because that can't be good for you. You're going to get
nothing is stopping you from
issues.
Turning around from somebody else and pulling that mask off and not having whatever salivatical inhibitions that are happening from your exhaling into that mask. You just don't breathe on people.
I don't feel like that's going to happen, though. You have lazy. They're not gonna pull and do this the whole time when they're on base, off base.
Yeah, they
whatever,
easily can.
Running, not running.
They absolutely
can. No, they're not. You could, but they're not gonna.
It hasn't been tested. That's the thing. If you're trying to establish the parameters of how a sport can work, if COVID is a thing that is sustaining itself in our world that we as humans are going to be dealing with for an extended period of time, then we can make these compromises. And if we have it where people wear a mask,
it's all the sports
There's
are going to be
so many asterisks about like records won.
Masks and gloves.
He won this.
No,
but it's
because it's just
COVID
different
record,
times.
right?
Because it's going to be post-COVID records.
But also not, because at a certain point in time,
and
COVID will be manageable, and we will be able to hopefully we will.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking more like, if the world evolves.
That's not gonna happen. We have too much technology that society is not going to disintegrate.
I mean, it will, but not because
I
of
know
COVID.
it's.
But the important thing,
nice.
Right? Yeah, it'll disintegrate for other reasons, but not COVID. Nobody's made it post-apocalyptic because of COVID, except for Planet of the Apes. Anyway,
that's really a tragedy. No, sorry, no sport moms are going to be bringing treats to sport.
But on the
anymore.
plus side,
you
will not have Karens chastising their kids at
I have
sporting
a serious
events.
question then. Does that mean that Halloween's canceled?
Fair trade-off. God,
no,
that's
it's not.
another
Halloween is a
No,
garbage holiday.
Yeah.
It's not a garbage holiday because I can get candy.
It isn't
Yes, it's garbage holiday. We have cosplaying. We have cosplay.
It's become a garbage. I can get candy
Not
anytime. We're adults, Phil. We can get
It's
candy
not only
anytime
that.
we want.
You do not have to limit your child to express themselves for someone they want to dress up as for one day a year. Because cosplaying is a fine thing in our society.
You can do whatever you want.
Anybody can dress up as anything they want. If you want, your kid can go to school as Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know who's going to stop you? Fucking no one.
Actually, not true. Someone will stop
Why?
them and force them to change. No masks in school. Schools sometimes have a dress code. No capes.
No capes? I've never seen a no cape policy at a school.
It's not enforced by the school. It's enforced by the children that go to the school.
Sure. I'm not saying your kid won't be.
Yeah, they'll take your cape.
It's a self-regulating system of which every kid knows.
But there's no policy stopping you from doing it. That's not a policy. That is self-policing.
Kids will murder you socially.
Cite episode 227 at this point.
Well,
I think we've decided that baseball has potential, but tennis and badminton, possibly table tennis, but I doubt it. Could be seeing a resurgence in, participants in the sport.
And remember, for all you NASCAR fans.
But soccer, basketball, football, I don't know how that's going to work, man. Don't know how that's going to work. Too much contact. Anyway.
Thanks, Mom.
NASCAR fans, direct your email at Sera at IO.
Fuck you, Micah. Fuck you.